All right, Notre Dame fans, we are here outside of Notre Dame Stadium where we thought we'd be doing some videos previewing Notre Dame's college football playoff run. Obviously, the dust has settled on that. We're about 48 hours removed from learning that the Irish will not be in the college football playoff. And Jack, we had a press conference with Irish Athletics Director Pete Bevacqua today to largely talk about that. It was supposed to be a press conference to talk about all things Notre Dame athletics, but right now the word that everyone is talking about is that snub from the CFP. So we'll start there, and we'll get into some stuff about the ACC as well, because Pete Bevacqua has been very demonstrative in the way that he's vocalized how he feels about the conference right now. But sticking specifically with the CFP snub, Jack, I think the big thing to take away here is that even 48 hours removed, Pete Bevacqua, Marcus Freeman, and all of these Irish players, they feel like they were duped and the rug was pulled out from under them. And that's the hardest thing to get over, is that they thought they were in, but turns out they're out.
Yeah, the wounds are very much still fresh. And Bevacqua stressed to us multiple times that it's not even the snub itself that Notre Dame is furious, quite frankly, about. It is the fact that they were led to believe for 5 weeks or so that, five shows, that you're in, you're now number 10 for no reason at all, and then you're out. And Bevacqua, he did not call it 100-year check by name, the Arkansas athletic director and the CFP committee chair, but he did specifically reference a couple of his explanations as to why Notre Dame moved down, whether it was Alabama went for it on 4th and 2 and we were impressed with that, or we instructed the committee to watch the Notre Dame-Miami game back. He specifically referenced those two lines, and again, did not mention Euro check by name, but he clearly feels that the explanations given by the committee were insufficient.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Notre Dame has to grapple with, is the fact that, like you said, Jack, for 5 rankings releases, Notre Dame was in, and then on the very last one, they were out because a team that they were ranked ahead of the whole time was in, a team that lost 28-7, and they were ranked ahead of for about half the time that the CFP rankings releases were coming out. Notre Dame was ranked ahead of Alabama, and even that wasn't enough to be ranked ahead of Alabama again when, like Bevacqua said on Friday, he made a couple public appearances on some shows, and he said, this is not a Notre Dame-Miami thing. The committee has made it clear on that. This is a Notre Dame-Alabama thing. It ended up being a Notre Dame-Miami and a Notre Dame-Alabama thing because both of those teams got in. Miami is the only ACC team in this thing, and Pete Bevacqua says deservingly so. The Hurricanes deserve to be in. They beat Notre Dame for one, and they had a 10-2 record just like Notre Dame. He also said Alabama deserves to be in. If he thinks Notre Dame deserves to be in, which he obviously does, as a lot of other people do, Jack, this was another big thing in today's press conference. This is trending toward a 16-team playoff, because if all those teams deserve to be in, and he mentioned Texas and Vanderbilt as well, then there's just not enough seats at the table. And if you want all those teams to be in a playoff format, then you probably got to go to 16 teams. Bevacqua was in favor of that.
Yeah, Bevacqua has said a couple times in the past week that he's in favor of the 16-team playoff, reiterated that today. He said that it strikes the perfect balance between, or not perfect, I should say, because he acknowledged that there will always be, there will never be a perfect format. Like, he said correctly that this year, if it was a 14 playoff, it would be so cut and dry, there would be no debate whatsoever over the 4 teams.
Oregon might have been a little unhappy, but hey, you lost to Indiana, and
but you lose to Indiana, and you weren't a conference champion. I think the 4 teams would be pretty cut and dry. But then in other years, the 4 team was not obviously not cut and dry. In some years, the 12 team might be cut and dry. Yeah. He said that there's no perfect system, but he does think that the 16-team playoff would strike the right balance of letting enough teams in and giving enough teams hope to win a championship, and maintaining the integrity and importance of the regular season.
All right, let's talk about the ACC. Probably should have led with that, but we are going to get around to it right now. It was probably the biggest hot-button issue from this press conference once again, and Pete Bevacqua kind of set the standard for that when he went on the Dan Patrick Show on Monday morning and just kind of lit the ACC ablaze. Jack, what more did we learn about that relationship today with Notre Dame and the ACC, and kind of what is the fallout? What does this look like going forward for these two parties?
Yeah, a lot like Notre Dame fans on our message board who, when this stuff first started happening, were calling out the ACC and were like, this relationship should end. All this stuff. Obviously, no big announcement as far as Notre Dame pulling out of the ACC. That was never going to happen. But Bevacqua is clearly upset, and he said a lot of the people in the Notre Dame athletic department feel the same way. He said that he stressed a couple things. He said Notre Dame and the ACC, their relationship is mutually beneficial. Yeah. He noted that ACC stadiums sell out about 23% of the time, I think was the number. And when Notre Dame's in town, they sell out 90% of the time. So he made it clear that he thinks Notre Dame does a lot of good for the ACC in football, and obviously otherwise Notre Dame is a member of the ACC in 24 other sports. And he said that when the ACC first like posted a graphic, calling out Notre Dame and propping up Miami, he thought, you know what, this is just a social media guy getting a little overzealous. He said he even expected an apology call from the ACC, but then it kept happening and it kept happening, and he said it was a targeted campaign against Notre Dame from the conference it calls home in the vast majority of its sports. He said he had a phone call with ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips last week, so before the playoff snub happened, expressing his displeasure, and he said that he has not spoken to Phillips since the rankings came out. Interestingly, the only commissioner he has spoken to, this is one of the few pieces of new information that came out of this, the only commissioner he has spoken to since the sub was Greg Sankey with the SEC, and
who got 5 teams into this playoff and Notre Dame couldn't get in,
and who Bevacqua said he has a great relationship with, and the conversation was mostly about the playoff expansion. But again, the bottom line is he is. I think the words he used were mystified again, which he used on the Dan Patrick show. Flabbergasted, I think, was thrown out there. Just surprised and upset with the ACC.
Yeah, and I want to point out Bevacqua's. Yeah, some people think that this is a little bit of a pity party and there's some pettiness going on, but he's remained pretty professional through it all because he's hyped Miami up. After this, here's another piece of information that we learned is that he had a conversation with Miami's AD, who he's a good friend of, and wished Miami well, said, go do your thing and make a run through this college football playoff. So it's not all sour grapes with Bevacqua. And to your point, I think I wrote about this on Monday. Bevacqua has had a point and a reason to kind of voice his displeasure with the ACC because of the fact that 24 of Notre Dame's teams are in the ACC. And the partial ACC football membership is no big deal. You mentioned the numbers with the sellouts. There's a TV component that goes to that. There's an eyeball component that when Notre Dame is playing Boston College in the middle or the first weekend of November, had Boston College been hosting, I don't know, insert whatever Big 12 team here as a non-conference game, it wouldn't have carried the same weight. So there's all of these different things, and I think Notre Dame has a right to be mad about that with the ACC. Now, is there anything else that Pete Bevacqua was angry about in this press conference? Because it really, a lot of it hinged on the ACC to me today, Jack.
I think we should mention, continuing with the ACC, that he was asked about potential next steps regarding the relationship. He wasn't very specific. He didn't go into a ton of details on what comes next regarding Notre Dame's relationship with the ACC. He did say again that it is strained, and he said that everything can be repaired, but it's certainly going to take a lot. And he said
more than an apology, I think is what he said.
He said an apology, quite frankly, wouldn't do a lot. Yeah. From there. So those were the two main points that he reiterated Notre Dame's frustration with, not even necessarily the result, but with the process. He said his biggest sympathies by far are with the student athletes. I actually asked him if there's any thought to doing not necessarily a smear campaign on Miami, but more social media lobbying from Notre Dame, which we did not see a ton of, if any. He said that he wanted to let Notre Dame's play on the field do the talking, with Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, the defense improving, C.J. Carr becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the country before our eyes. He said he thought that was enough. Clearly, it was not.
And I thought that was the right approach from Notre Dame, honestly. Maybe hindsight is 20/20, but Jack, if you would have said anything from Notre Dame's shoes, everyone would have just, the Miami beat you guys stuff would have been even louder. And to Bevacqua's point, I thought that Notre Dame's play on the field was speaking for itself. Yep. He made a lot of really good points today. Jeremiah Love, C.J. Carr, the defense getting better, winning all those games by 10-plus points. Now, he said it was one of the greatest 10-game runs in college football history. I think that can be debated, but it was a very good 10-game run. And we'll end with this. It was a really good 10-game run because Marcus Freeman knows what the heck he's doing. Marcus Freeman was mentioned a few times in this press conference, and I think it was worth noting that Pete Bevacqua said if an NFL team tries to come for Marcus Freeman, which there have been rumblings of that over the last couple of years, he would match monetarily, and he would do everything that he can, Pete Bevacqua would, to keep Marcus Freeman and his family happy in South Bend. And I thought that was very reassuring if you're a Notre Dame fan, just to hear that, because I think it was genuine, Jack. I think Pete Bevacqua really understands that every single day it is of the utmost importance to keep Marcus Freeman feeling like he wants and needs to be at Notre Dame.
Yeah, he said that's one of his main jobs as Notre Dame's athletics director. The matching component is key. He also said that he is more than willing to. He considers Marcus Freeman's contract, a living, breathing document. Is the term he used. He said that. And any time that Notre Dame needs to revise that contract to make Marcus Freeman happier, as far as compensation or financial support for the program, he will do that. So if Marcus Freeman does depart Notre Dame at any point, it will not be for a lack of resources committed on the part of the Irish.
So everybody's seeing all these coaching extensions for programs that have head coaches that have had success this season and are screaming, "Where's the Marcus Freeman extension?" One, this is a private university, so it's a little bit harder to if you're a reporter, to get your hands on the fact that Freeman has gotten an extension. But what you just said right there, Jack, with the living, breathing document, Pete Bevacqua knows that it's around the clock that you might have to adjust the terms of that contract for Marcus Freeman. So I think that's it right there. CFP, ACC, Marcus Freeman. If I got a question in, which I got snubbed kind of like the Irish, there were a lot of people asking questions, and we did get 2 blue and gold representatives to ask questions, which was awesome. I would have maybe asked about the relationship with ESPN, because I think that is a little bit more of a storyline there. It's definitely an outsider's perspective, but internally, I would have loved to have known if Pete Bevacqua has spoken to some execs at ESPN, said because I think I know that Notre Dame did not like the way that Notre Dame was put out there in the public light leading into that selection show. There was a lot of lobbying, and not a lot of it went the Irish's way. So that's an interesting point. Maybe we learn more about that in the future. Maybe we don't. But this was an informative press conference, and next time we have one of these, we'll be out here. Hopefully it's not this cold, but me and Jack will definitely be out here to cover it. In the meantime, definitely stick with this YouTube channel. All kinds of content coming your way here, and then go to blueandgold.com for all of our written work as well. So in the meantime, that's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka, blueandgold.com and Blue and Gold Illustrated.